Welcome to the Business of Black Business, a talk show that interviews Black entrepreneurs and advocates for Black business. The topics of conversation include access to capital, best business practices, success stories, and more. Now introducing our host, Mr. Jay Reynolds.
Hi, welcome to the Business of Black Business. Are you a small business that is operating in a non-traditional field? Or are you a woman building a business right now in a man-dominated field? Today, we get to talk to a person who's taken on both of those things and won. My name is Jay Reynolds. I own Wolf Creek Consulting. We are a top-ranked executive staffing firm that specializes in placing people in finance, accounting, IT, and engineering. We have offices in Coral Springs, Florida, West Palm Beach, and Birmingham, Alabama. Again, welcome to the Business of Black Business. Now, this is a show that's designed to help Black entrepreneurs and would-be Black entrepreneurs navigate the difficult fields of building and growing a business. It's a show that's designed really to give access to would-be entrepreneurs to being able to talk to people that have done it, people that have navigated through that, done really well, and are interested in and want to be a part of building other Black businesses. I want you to hear how they did it. I want you to get advice directly from them. So before we get started, one of the things that I have to do is to thank our sponsors. We certainly couldn't do this without those guys. DeMesman and Dover, personal injury attorneys, the Florida Lottery, Career Source South Florida, AARP, the University of Miami Research for All, and the Solid Waste Authority in West Palm Beach. Okay, like I said before, our special guest today is Ann McNeill, a very successful businesswoman and trailblazer, person that I have known for a number of years and have watched and admired for a very long time. Now, I typically don't read bios, but I will read a snippet from Ann's bio. Ann McNeill, a Riviera Beach native and owner of MCO Construction Services, Inc., has provided services to major construction firms to ensure that government-established goals are achieved on private and public projects requiring participation in businesses that are small, local, disadvantaged, and woman-owned. She has assisted some of the largest prime construction contractors in the region to reach their goals and has provided services on major projects, significant projects such as the American Airlines Arena, Conrack, Hartford, Jackson, Atlanta International Airport, Scripps Research Institute, Marlins Ballpark Parking Garage, Miami Science Museum, and EEA Reservoir. Now, Ann, I got to tell you, I'm really excited about having you on this show today for a lot of reasons. First of all, I have known you for a long time and admired your work for a very long time. I know also that you have been a real serious advocate for small businesses, whether it's in construction or not, and as well as women-owned businesses. You have been the tip of the spear, and I have watched that and admired that for a number of years. So we're going to try to see if we can be able to help you to allow you to be able to impart some of that wisdom to some of the people watching the show today. So one of the things that I like to do is the first question I want to ask you is, why don't you tell us about yourself? Tell us who you are. Tell us what makes you you. Tell me who your mentors were. Tell me a little bit about what were the things that really pushed you in the direction of construction. And we'll dive deeper into that in a minute. But I really want to know who you are as a person.
Well, first, let me start off by thanking you for this opportunity to share the trials, tribulations, and struggles of a small Black-owned, woman-owned construction business celebrating over 40 years in the construction industry as the first Black female contractor operating at the level that we do, because now we focus on billion-dollar programs, not just million-dollar projects. And so I open with that because it was not always that way. Actually, it was December 31st, 1979 at 9 p.m. that I picked up a copy of Think and Grow Rich and began to read the book. But then the book
Mm.
began to read me. And so the author asked me 4 questions, but he gave me 6 steps to riches. And every time I speak, I share that story because I promised myself when I realized that night that I was so deeply in debt with no way of getting out. When he asked me, Ann McNeill, how much money do you want? I had a good corporate job. I thought I was doing well, married with 1 child and that little picket fence in the
There
house.
you go. Of course.
All right. And did everything my parents said to do, go to school, get a good corporate education, corporate job, and everything's gonna be all right. Well, it wasn't all right. And I knew it, but it was that night that I realized that I had to do something different. So that was my a line that I drew in the sand when the author asked me, said, Ann, how much do you want? What are you going to do to get the money? By when do you want the money by? What's your plan of action? What is your affirmation statement? Now recite it twice a day. I knew nothing else to do, so I exactly what I did. I began to do that, Jay, and I tell you, I continued to read the book, came upon the mastermind principle, and about a year later, started my first mastermind group in 1980, and now to this day, I have become an
Wow.
expert in the Napoleon Hill philosophy and the principles of success. 5 businesses later, we talk about MCO construction, but I also am the owner of MCO Consulting, helping private and public sector organizations that work on public sector land with outreach, monitoring, and compliance, but also constructive speaking. Now I speak nationally to organizations to help entrepreneurial women get greater clarity and small businesses to get greater clarity in their business and their life. But also as the founder of the National Association of Black Women in Construction, we're in about 15 cities now. And then, of course, it all started with Think and Grow Rich. So I'm the founder of the International Mastermind Association, where annually over 18 years now, I've hosted an annual conference for your life. Excuse me, an annual meeting for your life. It's not a conference. And so
Hmm.
that's where we are now. But in the very beginning, very rough, very, very, very,
Hmm.
very, very rough. And I think
Who
that
are your
that's
mentors, Ann? Tell me
well,
who are your mentors?
my mentors starts with Dr. Susie C. Holly. Many people don't know her name. And for those of us that graduated from Florida Memorial, she was the lady that got on the train and went up and down the state to save Florida Memorial. And the religious center is named after her, Dr. Susie C. Holly. Another one of my mentors is Dr. Dorothy I. Heights, one of the
Hmm.
founders of Delta Sigma Theta and NCNW, and I model my 2 not-for-profits after her,
Okay.
helping women. And so another one of my models, a person I look up to naturally. I would be remiss if I did not say my mother, who is a holiness minister, which, I have a saying that says, I work like it all depends on me, but I have faith and I pray like it all depends on God. And that's from my mom because I had to learn how to put feet to my faith.
Got it.
So those are just some of, a doctor, not doctor, but Anthony Range. I
Hmm.
had a
Hmm.
privilege of getting to know her early in my college years as I
Hmm.
watched her grow. But one of the other things Miss Range did to me, for me, to me, and for me, that turned and changed how I view being a small business. Toward the latter part of her life, I was about 3 feet behind her in a bank line, first of the month in
Gotcha.
the
Yeah.
city.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah. Yeah.
I see this, I see these stiletto heels. For those that know Miss Range, in her 90s, she was still wearing stiletto heels. And I didn't know it was her. I'm looking in at feet because I'm in the bank line, 15 deep, reading
Yeah.
the book. And the lady behind me keeps saying, when you're in the neighborhood, they are not very nice when you're not paying attention. So they says, "Man, will you go up, please?" And I take a step. I don't look up. And then she said it again. By the third time, she's, not so nice, using that colorful language.
Yeah.
And I look down and I see some heels 2 feet in front of me. And I said to myself, man, those stilettos look like Miss Range, red bottom and all,
Oh, and all.
and all.
Back
I looked,
then, red bottom and all.
listen,
Yeah.
listen,
Yeah.
Jay, I looked up and Miss Range was in those shoes. And this
Yeah.
is what I said to myself. What in the world is she doing in the bank line at the beginning of the month 15 deep. She need to be in the office with a personal banker.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
then I was, wait a minute, wait. What are you doing in this line?
Yeah. Yeah.
15 deep. I'm
Did you ever feel you never answered that question, right? You never really answered that question, did you?
what?
Oh, you asked her.
I know I didn't have to ask her the question. I knew why she was in the line.
Yeah,
I
well,
knew
that's
why,
what I'm saying. But
I
I'm
knew
just
why I
saying
was
you
in the
asked.
line. Listen, I knew why I was in the line too, but I tell you what, I've not been back in that line.
Yeah, yeah.
So
That's what
that's
I'm
what
talking
I think that's what this program is about. And we want to encourage your listeners to please make sure you comment, like, and share the show.
about. Mm-hmm.
But we also want to make sure you are very clear about how much money do you want
Yeah. I gotta
and what
tell
are you.
you, go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, I'm talking to your audience while we're talking to each other because
Yes.
you shared that you want people to understand how do you go from where you are to where you're going. So as we're dialoguing with them too, because I really want each person who's listening to us to take this personally and let this be the line in the sand you draw as you ask yourself the question, how much money do you want?
Yeah. I got to tell you, Ann, this is exactly what this program is about, right? It's not having a discussion with Jay. It's having a discussion with, with Mark and Joseph and everybody else that's looking to establish a business for themselves or take their business from one place to the next. So that's exactly what this is about. So thank you very much for sharing that. I got to tell you that I have been in the room a number of times when you presented, and I'm the kind of guy, I'm a lifelong learner, right? I got a little piece of paper always in my pocket right here. And you start talking and I pull out my pen and I start to take notes. And that's just not me just talking because I think it sounds good. That's absolutely a fact. You have said some things to me that have followed me. Um, let's talk to me a little bit about how you decided to go into the construction industry, right? Male dominated,
Sure.
woman, all of that stuff that you have probably talked about a million times before. And the reason why I'm bringing that up is because there's somebody out there, some female out there with a leverageable point of difference business in a male dominated area. And what we want to know, we want her to hear is the fact how she can actually get that done. And she can do that. She can survive and she can thrive if she's got that leverageable point of difference, no matter who dominates that space.
So your question is,
My question is, why did you decide to go into the construction industry? Because we will talk about the male dominated part of it.
and for those of you who are listening to the podcast and you cannot see what I'm doing, I'm rubbing my fingers together as if to say money, 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 money.
Mm-hmm.
You see, in the spirit of service, we desire to be good tithers, to give, to serve, to become philanthropic. And in order to do that, you must have money. But in order to do that, you must become that which requires us to have personal growth and development to attract the money. And
Right.
so, in order to do that, you must be very specific. I call it you're in 5 businesses. Even if you are an entrepreneur inside of somebody's organization, you are still in business as an entrepreneur, or you're an entrepreneur outside, like Jay and myself, and so many others of us who are entrepreneurs. Either way, I think you're in 5 different businesses. And as an entrepreneur, what motivated me to go into the construction business was the fact that when I read this book, Napoleon Hill's book, and talked about how much money I wanted, I realized that by doing the analysis on my debt, I would never get out of debt by continuing to work on my job, only on my job. And so the desire then came to create an additional source of income. You see, you have 3 sets of 8. You have 8 hours to work, you have 8 hours to sleep, and then you have 8 hours to do anything else you want to do. So that third set of 8 is the time that you would use in between times, or whatever you want to call it, to work on yourself, you see, because you are also a corporation. Yes, you're a
Right.
corporation. And
Right.
so for me, the line came when I came home from work one day at a good corporate job, and my husband and I was buying our home. For those who live in the Florida, South Florida area, that you know where the um, Palm Beach County Convention Center sits, our home sat right up underneath that building. I'm going back 40 years ago.
Yeah. Yeah.
Came home from work, and my husband said, now he graduated valedictorian from Florida Memorial. That's where we met. And I graduated, thank you, Lordy. That gives you some perspective.
Yeah.
Yes, I married up. Came home from work, and my husband said, if I had it to do all over again, I would not go to college. I was shocked. Now, I married up. He
Yeah.
graduated valedictorian. We both
Right.
had degrees in undergraduate accounting. And I said, excuse me. He said, no, I wouldn't go to college. I said, what would you do? He said, I'd go into construction, start a construction business. I said, you gotta be kidding me. I started laughing. I thought it was funny. He said, no, 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 no. Listen, we are having repairs done, and the estimates that I'm getting, if we did the work ourselves, the savings would be more than you make a year. I said, excuse me? He said, yeah, think about it. Many of these guys, they did not finish high school.
Right. Right. Right.
And they went to a trade school, and they started their own business, and they make more in an hour than you make a day. I said, excuse me? I kept saying, excuse me. He said, yeah, look, I did the math that if we self-perform the work ourselves, this is what we would save. And so during that time, we bought our house, and then we bought the house across the street. We bought the house down the street. And if you know where the Kravitz Center sits, that was actually one of the second property we bought. It was just a little house up underneath the Kravitz Center. And we're just young, did not know what we were doing. We had bad credit, no credit. And so we would, on the weekends, we get the Sunday's paper, and we would look for sale by owner property that was in our neighborhood.
Right. Right. Right.
And that's how I ended up in construction. And so I said to my husband, I said, well, if you believe that that's what you would do, I said, I'm going to go to trade school. He started laughing. He said, you're kidding me. I said, no. He said, listen, you're working on your master's degree. You have a corporate job. You got the baby, got a family. I said, I'm going to go to trade school. So I signed up and went to trade school at North Tech in Riviera Beach. That's how yes. So I don't take excuses. Pardon me?
So you studied what part of construction?
No,
electrical, plumbing?
No. It was basic construction on how to build a house from the ground up. That was the name of the course. And I'm going back over 40 years ago. Yeah. Now, you study the trades and things like that. But from that day to this, I actually hold 2 general contracting licenses. But that's another story. And if you want to talk about
that's really cool. That's something I didn't know. That's something really cool. Which means that you decided, you plotted out a course for yourself that was somewhat non-traditional.
Yes.
Very, 180 degrees from what you've done before, and you took that challenge on without fear.
No, not without fear.
Yeah, nothing.
There's a lot of fear, but there's a lot of faith. And my faith exceeded my fear. But also because I was reading the book Think and Grow Rich, and I was in the book at that time, I read the stories of all the people that failed. I read the story starting with the first chapter when, this guy decides to go become Edison's partner, and he was a hobo, but he knew he wanted to become Barnes, it was his name. He knew he wanted to become a business partner of Edison. 5 years he worked for Edison, sweeping the floor. Who would do that? But I already knew that I was willing to make that investment in myself.
Right.
And so, no, there was a lot of fear, but faith.
Yeah. I got to tell you, if you don't have butterflies in your stomach, that means that you're not stretching. You're not pushing yourself.
Absolutely.
I got to tell you, I operate with butterflies in my stomach most of the time. Talk to me a little bit about the fact that that the construction industry, and I know these are obvious questions that you've been asked a million times, but people can take this information, and whether it's construction or not, they can take the same information and make it relevant to their lives. The construction industry is viewed as a man-dominated field. How did you navigate through that as a Black woman, and how did you overcome some of those obstacles?
Well, I go back to not just Think and Grow Rich, the book, but I go back to reading a proverb a day. Okay. I go back to all the many books that I read. You see, when I read Think and Grow Rich, he talked about a mastermind group. I formed a mastermind group of accountability with 10 women. This was in the early 80s.
Wow.
And
Cutting edge.
absolutely. And
Mhm.
so that mastermind group of accountability, we met every Saturday at 7 a.m. for 52 weeks. Everybody didn't always come, but we never missed them. We never held a meeting. And I say that to say this: when we and whoever's listening to, to us, when you have a desire, something you're willing to work for, you need to have accountability, and you need to have partners and people who are willing to hold you accountable. But you also need to have an idea of what business your craft is in.
Okay.
So I said, I talked earlier about 5 businesses, and I talked about the 6 keys. And for those, who are interested in getting more, you can reach out to me. I can send that to you at 55678. You can just text that and put the word "and" in the chat. The number again is 55678. But those 6 questions was guiding me, Jay, for everything. So when I started learning how to do the repairs, I wanted to start a construction business.
Right.
So
Right.
when you talk about a male dominated industry, I never looked at it like that. I looked at it as an opportunity to do what those black guys was doing. I didn't look at it as a fear of what the white people were doing. I never looked at it like that because my father raised me learning how to drive heavy equipment. He was a field hand, and he would
Mhm.
take people to the fields to work. So I grew up with that uh, tenacity to do those kinds of things and never put a gender on it, if you will.
Got it. Got it.
So coming back to the mastermind group of accountability and encouraging your listeners to think about whether it's construction or engineering or healthcare, whatever it is you choose to do, become an expert in that. So I knew from reading Napoleon Hill the book, when he talked about specialized knowledge, I needed to choose one area of specialization and become an expert in that. And that area was construction. So
Right.
my point is success principles work. Do we work them though? And
Right.
so the craft specialization was construction,
Right.
but that's one business we're all in. The second business that I think we're in is the business of the operations of your business. So
Mm-hmm.
as entrepreneurs, when we're thinking about starting a business, well, what do you know about the operations of the sales and marketing, the HR, all of those things
Mm-hmm.
that are
Mm-hmm.
required to run a successful business?
The finances and
The
the
fin-
finances of it all.
exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. But the third business, Jay, I think that we're all in is the business of our industry. You see, you are in the staffing business,
Mm-hmm.
but then you have many different industries where you can focus your staffing. And you and I have had this conversation. After many years of being in staffing, you've come to the realization that one of the areas that's very profitable, that's you laughing, yes, I'm gonna tell you a
I
secret.
know where you're going. You and I had this conversation.
Yes, because if you
Yeah.
don't study it
Yeah.
with the numbers don't lie. We can lie on the numbers, but the numbers don't lie. You see, and one of the things that I had to realize, it took me a long time. You see, I started as a small sub and then a small prime. But then I began to look around and say, but wait a minute, where's the money? And what I realized is the money is in what you do, which is staff augmentation.
Right.
But
Right.
as a licensed general contractor, we call it construction management.
Right.
Okay. It's
Right.
all the
Right.
same thing. And so
Right.
I would say that the third business that we're all in, and I want to challenge your guests, write this down. And that is the business of your industry. You see, even though I'm a contractor and I'm in the construction business, but what industry am I in? Am I in the healthcare industry as a contractor? Am I in the aviation industry as a contractor? Am I in the water utilities industry as a
Mm-hmm.
contractor? Am I in, and I can go on to all of the
Right.
industries. So when you think about whatever it is that you do, what industry are you in? And are you known in your industry
Are you known? Yep.
as an expert? Not just do you
Absolutely.
know them, but do they
Right.
know you? You
Are you
see,
showing up? Are
absolutely.
you visible? Are
Yeah.
you contributing? Are you standing up and having a conversation with with decision makers? Are you
Yeah.
doing those things so when it comes down to people having a discussion about that particular need, somebody remembers the conversation that they had with you? I
With
got to
you.
tell you, one thing I
Yeah.
was going to say really real quick is that the two-handed, um, my one of my mentors is Bill Picard. Bill Picard and I talk to Bill as often as I can. Um, but one of the things Bill said that I want to just kind of compliment you and what you just said is you got to have two-handed living, right? You have to be able to have two-handed living, have multiple streams of income. So not only do you do this job really well, but you have to be thinking about what's that level up, right? What's the level up? And it goes back to the conversation that you and I have had many times where we decided that we're not going to just do what we do, corporate staffing, but we're going to get involved in state and local government and bigger, bigger projects. And that way, you not only level up your business, but you build a legacy business. And that dovetails exactly to what you just talked about, having multiple streams and having being able to do it that way. And I totally agree. I've never heard anybody put it quite the way that you did, but Bill Picard put it in the language that I understood really easily. I could put on my wall, two-handed living. Talk to me a little bit about some of the you don't have to get into anything gory details, but pitfalls. Talk to me a little bit about some of the pitfalls along your journey and how you've been able to navigate through some of that stuff and overcome them.
Well, let me just share with you one of the business that we're in that I am still learning the hard way. When
Okay.
you talk about the pitfall relating to this. I talked about 4 businesses, but the 5th one I just added in the last probably 10 years. The 4th business that we're all in is the business of relationships. The business of relationships.
Mm-hmm.
The 4th business is the business of relationships. And you talked about that just now in terms of people, knowing you for who you are, what you do, and the fact that you add value. But the 5th business, and this is what one of the struggles I had, and like everything, I look at it as an opportunity to turn it into, take that lemon and put some sugar on it and turn it to lemonade, because it's not what happens to us, it's how we choose to react, right?
Right.
So the 5th business that we're all in is the business of money.
Okay.
It's the business of money. See, we're taught how to make the money. That's called a job.
Yeah.
But we're not taught how to make money. That's called investing. So one of the trials and tribulations that I had early in my career is that I grew up in Riviera Beach, and we bought a home that actually was a duplex, only to find out when my father passed, because we lived on one side and my grandparent lived on the other side with my aunt. But it wasn't until my father passed. Now I'm an entrepreneur, I got the degrees and all of that. My father passed, and my aunt comes to my mother and she says, "Oh, by the way, you need to start paying rent." 35 years in, property paid off, my father. And at that point, we realized that my aunt never placed my father's name on the deed. So he thought it was his home, was hers. Now I'm going to get to the money side of this conversation. And my mom is livid, of course. She calls me up, and I'm a businesswoman, and I go to my mom's rescue, and of course I'm livid, because how we don't know this. Now I'm talking to everybody that has family. I say to my mother, look, and I was struggling. Oh, I was struggling. I said to my mother, I will pay my aunt the rent. We've already paid for the property. Property's free and clear. And we find out our name's not on the deed. I go to my aunt. She's right next door. And I said, listen, I will pay rent for my mom, $300. Well, in no time, my aunt dies. My aunt dies, and she wills the property to somebody else. Now
Right.
I'm coming to money here. Those of you entrepreneur,
Yeah.
highfalutin folk, you know who I'm talking to.
Yeah. And
that was me. So my aunt dies, And now the property goes into probate because my aunt willed it to another relative, but she, I guess her conscience was one that she said, you know, I should put somebody else on here. So she put my 5-year-old daughter in name on it, which made me executive, not executive, but let me fast forward the story. 15 years later, how many?
A lot.
15 years later, we're still going through probate. No
15
more than,
years.
hold up now. I'm getting to the story. That's not the story. The story is that I was, remember at New Birth Baptist Church with Pastor Curry. We had just moved into this new facility, which was an old facility now, which is not the new building, but the old one on 7th Avenue. And I get a call, and it's 15 years in. We're still in probate court. I get a call from a girlfriend who was like a streetwalker. You know, we all have those friends from high school. For the grace of God, go I. And she said, girl, this Ann called. My maiden name Conti. Yeah, I said, this Ann called. I said, yes, this Ann called. She said, girl, it's Mary. I just passed your mama house and all y'all stuff outside on the street. I'm in church, walking into the church. I have a heart attack. Wow. Yes, my heart starts attacking me in church. Wow. Because she tells me when she saw our stuff out on the street, she went to the door trying to figure out what's going on. And the lawyer who was deemed by the courts as the executor of the estate sold the property for pennies on the dollar, and we had no say so. What? Now, why am I telling you this story? Hold up now. I just said before I got to this, you asked about trials and tribulations. How many of you want? Okay, let me just tell you this one, because I think this one is going to bless a lot of people, and they just don't know when and how it's going to bless them. I was so angry that I literally was about to leave here. Yes, I didn't realize I was having a heart attack. I never had one before. So fast forward past going to the hospital, past all of that. I get back home. I'm at a Sunday and I'm watching TV on bed rest for a week. And I see Susie Armand on TV telling my story. I never heard of her in my life. This is way before she was Susie Armand. This is back way before. And she talks about a property that a lady owned, her and her husband. The husband died, the property automatically goes to the wife. The wife dies, the property automatically goes to the one child. But the child could not buy the property out of probate court. You see, you should never put anything in a will that changes title. You put it in a trust, never a will, because it has to be probated through the courts, and you have to buy it out of probate. Court. Right, probate. Yeah. But this is what that story did for me. Now I'm fast forwarding the struggle, because I'm such a positive thinking person. I don't care what it is. Laying on my back, I had to come to the realization, okay, that's done. But how is it that I did not know? How is it that I have all of these degrees, all of these businesses, and I did not know anything about money, making money, and how to protect your assets? So now let me fast forward now the last 25 years, because this story is 30 years old. Let me tell you about the last 25 years. When I realized what I did not know, I started an investment club. And my youngest daughter at the time was in first grade. But let me fast forward. She became, in less than 10 years, the baby billionaire. And you can Google this, the baby billionaire. PBS did a special on her. I mean, I can go on and on, but she teaches investing and has since basically retired, if you will, from learning how to analyze stocks and how to invest. But the power of a $20 bill. And even though I have 5 businesses, with what I know now about making money, what I know now, if I had it to do all over again, I don't know if I would have started the first business. If I knew then what I know now, that power of compound interest, that chart that we always see that says if you start this age and you max out your Roth IRA and you don't put another thing in it, and you start, if you start at 15 and you go for 5 years, versus if you start at 22 and go all the way to 62 and you start at 40, you'll never catch that person started at 15. Well, my daughter did that at 12. But I also did it at $20 a month. And I'm here to tell you, after 30 years, it's six figures. 20, not 200,
Yeah.
not
Yeah.
2,000. And so I'm saying that about the power of money making money. And if you're interested, we're volunteers. We don't make a dime. Been volunteers now for over 25 years with an organization called Better Investing. You can go to betterinvesting.org and they have a free membership, betterinvesting.org, a free 90-day membership. It is phenomenal. The membership is less than $100. But when I tell you that we have touched, people are sitting on 6 and 7 figures from investing, and they don't own a business.
Right.
Now, that's a struggle that I took the lemon and turned it into lemonade.
I got to tell you, that's an amazing, amazing story. But it's life. It's like taking information, things that happen to you, and deciding that, hey, look, I'm never going to let this happen to me the same way again.
Or anybody else I know.
Yeah.
Or anybody else that I know.
Now, let me ask you just a couple things. I know you wear a lot of hats, and I really appreciate your time to do this. I want you to leave me with 2 or 3 things that you believe would be impactful to any, because you really did. You just really did a good job about finances. You have to understand money, and you have to believe that you have to get in front of that. I do believe that. That's one thing that you leave with people is don't. Paycheck to paycheck is not the way to do it. You know,
I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. What I know now is not what you make, is what you do with what you make.
Exactly. So what are some other things that you would leave the budding entrepreneur with to help them to navigate through building a business and building their careers and their lives?
Keep your job.
Okay.
Keep your job. You see, a business is like a baby. Now, Jay, do you have children?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
I have 2 grown kids that are college educated that still talk to me.
All right. So. Now, when they were conceived and born,
mm-hmm.
how long did y'all carry them?
Through college. You mean from the time that they were conceived to the time that they graduated from grad school?
How many years?
A lot, like 22.
Okay, now your business is like a baby.
Mm-hmm.
Why do we think we're going to start a business and in less than 10 or 20 years it's going to go through the roof? Why do we believe that? You see, my point is this: if it takes 9 months for that baby to come here, and then it takes probably another 10 years, if you will, for them to become somewhat a little self-sufficient, if you will, at 12 or 13.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you got to feed them, you got to clothe them. A business is the same way. You must feed your business. Don't leave your job. Feed your business from your job. And when your business is able to feed itself and feed you, and my test is if you can save a year's worth of salary from your job, you know that your business can financially afford to feed you. You can leave that job.
Yeah.
But if you have to keep dipping back into that job income to support that business, that new baby you birth, don't leave your job. So that would be the first thing. The other one, which is huge, I have what I call a self-confidence challenge is going on in my mastermind. And if anybody's interested, you can go to annmcneil.com/coaching and join us. But self-confidence is king. So when you ask me what else can I share, whether you keep your job as a professional or whether you decide to become an entrepreneur in your company that you're working for, or if you decide to become an entrepreneur and join us on the dark side, you must have self-confidence. And what I teach in my Clarity Mastermind, you see, I know by faith that I have the ability to achieve the object of my definite purpose in life. Therefore, I demand of myself persistent, continuous action toward its attainment. And I right now promise to render that action every single day in every single way. And until you have that kind of self-confidence, that's why, you know, Jay, I host on behalf of the National Association of Black Women in Construction, every quarter I host a $1 billion luncheon. And go back to the book, Think and Grow Rich. Carnegie, Schwab, that whole story about $1 billion dinner speech. And when I read that over 10 years ago, I said, listen, if he can do a $1 billion dinner speech, I can do $1 billion luncheon. Came up with this idea and then host that. And so I say that because I have the self-confidence to now, not as a small business, to not focus only on the $1 million projects, but my vision is on now, not just the $1 billion, but the $1 trillion infrastructure opportunities. And every day I'm having meetings between the White House and Congress and different people, legislators, about our members participating in the $1 trillion infrastructure money that's coming throughout the United States. So those are just a couple of things. And again, I cannot say enough about clarity in your highest income producing areas and having your desire. I cannot say enough about self-confidence. And I cannot say enough about the fact that each of us, Jay, must have a dream in order to have a dream come true.
Right. I got to tell you, Ann, again, I can honestly, every time I've ever been in the room when you were speaking, I pull out my little piece of paper that I keep in my pocket and my pen, and I always write down notes. I really wish that I could have been doing that today. I'm doing my own doggone show, and I couldn't. but I can go back and watch the recording, and so can you, viewers. Before we break, I need to do a couple things. I really need to thank, first of all, and thank you very much. You have a burning desire to give back to the community and give back to not only Black business people, but to the Black community at large. So I appreciate you for that. And you're exactly what this show is about. You are exactly what this show is about. Teaching us let's call it a 360 view of how it works. It's not just the business, it's your personal life. It's your personal growth. It's all those things that give you a 360 view. And you're exactly what this is all about. So before we break, I got to do a couple things and thank the sponsors. And first person I want to thank is Legacy Magazine. Dexter, Aaliyah, you guys are amazing. Thanks for making this happen. We could not do this without you guys. And I want to thank you for making this important. You make this important. DeMesman and Dover personal injury attorneys. Victor, thank you for all you do. The Florida Lottery, Career Source South Florida. And before we move on to other sponsors, I want to talk a little bit about Career Source South Florida. Each and every week, they post a number of jobs on their website that you can go and peruse and perhaps find your next opportunity. Some of them, the top 10, are a housing community development project manager, $43 an hour, a complex director of finance, $34 an hour, parks and beaches manager, $32 an hour, aircraft mechanic, $22 an hour, server, $22 an hour, maintenance manager, $20 an hour, groundskeeper, $18 an hour, child care teacher, $15 an hour, registered behavioral tech, $15 an hour, and a customer service ops person, $13 an hour. And the cool thing is that each and every week you can go to that website and perhaps find the next opportunity. Also want to thank the University of Miami, All of Us Research, AARP, and the Solid Waste Authority in Palm Beach counties. Thank you guys for making this show important and supporting us. Again, Ann, you're amazing. Thank you very much for all you do. And thank you for giving people the opportunity to see a person. I would just like to say level up, right? You have a very complex approach to business, and it takes a person who's got a business, people that have a business, a fledgling business or growing business or emerging business, to say, hey, look, I can develop a complex business model like yours, and not only do that, but impact my life in a 360 view, and not just purely looking at my business, but all of the other things like finances and personal growth and all of those things that you're involved in. And the cool thing about you is that you have the vehicles to train people. I mean, Aaliyah, if you could put up her website again, or maybe if you can give us your website and some of the things, the projects that you have going that people can actually tap into, I think that would be great.
Yes, well, MCO Construction, mcoconstruction.net. We do have opportunities for employment. You can go there and check those out. Project managers, assistant project managers, clerks. We are steadily enjoying the opportunities to do outreach, monitoring, and compliance for our clients. And it has just been a phenomenal, Channel 4 just did a piece on us. I teach at Florida Memorial Construction Trades, and it's building a pipeline into the construction industry for all areas, because it's a mindset shift. And I think what we've talked about today is the mindset of construction. It's a success mindset, whether we're in the trades or whatever area that we're in. And then as a professional speaker, I do coaching and consulting, and that's annmcneill.com/coaching if you're interested. But if having greater clarity, if you are interested in having greater clarity in your highest income producing areas of your business and your life, we can definitely show you how to do that. It has just been a phenomenal opportunity for hundreds of people that we've helped. And I cannot say enough about the fact that each of us must have a dream and a desire of something that we want. And it's not always about the money. It could just be health. It could be family. Yes. So all of those areas we cover. And so we make them intentionally congruent to everything else that we do.
Great. Now, so is that a subscription? Can people join this thing for free? Is there
yes, we do have what I call a Think and Grow Rich Friday accountability call. Is free. They can join it for free and join us every Friday morning at 7 a.m. And you can go to my website. The link is there. But definitely, because what we do is we read through the book Think and Grow Rich. And to me, as you can hear, it is the thread that binds everything together that I do, because I do believe that, you can give a man a fish or a woman, but when we teach you how to fish,
teach them how to fish.
Absolutely. You will teach your children and grandchildren. And right now we're on third generation in my family. Our 5-year-old granddaughter, Rajania, she's hosting and co-hosting our Friday youth mastermind that's held on Zoom every Sunday at 3:30. My grandson has become a professional speaker himself at 17, 18, 19, and traveled with Les Brown for the last few years.
Traveling with Les Brown at 17 years old.
Yes.
That says it all.
Yes.
That says it all.
Ranked number 1 speaker, for junior achievement for 2 years in a row. So, but again, all of it starts with the mindset shift. Mindset. And I came in and was listening to my 4-year-old granddaughter at the time. She didn't know I had a camera on, and was listening to her read from Think and Grow Rich. And when I saw her do that, I said to her mom, if she can do that, she can be in the youth. Yeah. Absolutely. They can do everything else that they see and hear. It's subliminal.
Well, that's part of it.
Absolutely.
They emulate exactly what it is they see. So
absolutely.
We have to show them. Hey, well, Ann, you're absolutely one of my heroes. Thank you very much for all you do, and thank you for taking it. I know how busy you are. Thanks for taking the time to do this. I always say, if it is to be, it's up to me, and you're an absolute indication of that. So thank you very much. Thank you, Legacy Magazine. Thank you guys for tuning in, and we get to do this again next week on Monday at 1 p.m. Please tune in. And share this. Please share this podcast on your links on your Facebook, Instagram, whatever it is you want to do. Share it on. But please share it. Thanks very much for being here, and talk to you soon. Take care.
Thank you.